Testing 1, 2, 3. Is audio working? Alright, no weird text over my stream this time. So, I'm going to try to cover how to make a character and some simple combat situations. This is just a generally initially created campaign. The only thing I've done is created a scene and threw this map down in the back. It has no line of sight or anything. I threw some tokens on here. Initially, when you first start it up, the first time a new campaign is going to have this. Tells you what version you're at. One of the things you should pay attention to is this. If you need to read the documentation, you can click that, and it'll pull it up, and you got all kind of good stuff in there that you can go over and look at for specific pieces. You can go look at them. Also on character sheets, you'll see these little things here. They're also elsewhere in some cases. You can click that and it'll bring up this and go straight to the doc and the page where it's at. And you can go through and kind of get an idea of what you need to do. It kind of explains what each field is, but that sort of stuff. This guy I already made, mainly just to kind of start off showing what we're looking at. And then we'll start from scratch on a new guy. This is the combat tab. This is where most of your actions are going to be run from. To make an attack, you would click that and go through the, I call these situational pop-ups. So you can change your modifiers to attack. What's their AC? Is it normal? Are they shieldless? Or are they no dex, no shield, that sort of thing? And then you can set the particular role visibility in the chat right here. By default, the public role down there on I have it set to public role on the chat window on the bottom right. Right now, that'll be used as default if you don't change this. But if you need to, you can hit the drop down on dice visibility and set it to private GM role, blind GM role, stuff, whatever you need. That sort of thing. So. You can see this guy has some crossbow bolts, and the little black dots are for each one of them he has. And these are other actions that this fighter has that he can run. These are skills. These are actions. And these are weapons. This is his gear, and you can see he's got a battle axe, some chainmail, crossbow, some bolts. He's got 12 of them. You can see how much they weigh on the right, how many you got, whether they're equipped or not. If you click on these little buttons, or you click on these little icons like that, and now this is not even, it's not carried or equipped. It's useful if you like your character has something but it's not on him. You can click that and it'll take the weight off. And you can, if you look down here, you can see the weight change when I click this. So I went up to 72. It is carried now, it's not equipped, so if you look at his AC, it's still 10, but if we set it to worn, go back here, you can see his AC is now 5. And backpack, we have items here that are inside of it. If you ever want to put something into it, you can just drag and drop it on top of it, it'll put it in there. If you want to take it out, you'll grab a hold of the thing and drag it outside of that and release. If you want to change the order of something up here, you'd want to get something that you can move above it like that. And you can put it there, or you can move this down here, that sort of thing. You can do the same thing within here too. This is the Proficiencies and Skills tab. Proficiencies are applied specific to weapons. If we look at this guy right here, it costs 1 proficiency point. He has no hit or damage bonuses. Right now, the speed and number of attacks is just for visual reference. This may change in the future. Actually, speed so future reference, I may reference these for other variants. I believe in 2E you can, if you have high enough mastery, you can change the speed of a thing. So I'm gonna look at that. But right now they're just here for visual and for future use. Proficiencies can also have effects tied to them. I'm not going to go into effects right now. Those are kind of complicated. Conditionals are kind of the same thing as effects, but they're specific to this proficiency. So it would only trigger whenever whatever weapon is applied to this would be used. It would trigger there. To add something to a proficiency. So if you had another axe or something else you wanted to give this proficiency to, you would find it. We'll say brawl for now. And what that means is now he is proficient with that. He won't get a non-weapon proficiency penalty when using brawl because he has proficiency with it. For specializations, you would put like 1 and 2 there, and that means that when they attack with a battle axe, they would get +1 to hit and +2 to damage. But we'll leave that blank. You can also have multiple proficiencies. What I would typically do is create a battle axe proficiency, and then I would create a specialization proficiency, and then give that one the +1, +2. And then that way, and they do proficiency stack. So if this one had a +1 to hit, and then you had another proficiency that was on the same weapon, and it was +1 to hit, you'd have a total of +2 from your proficiencies and so on. So if you want to keep them spread apart so you know what they are, like for 2E, I think the mastery, it'll be useful. So at their first tier, they're just like specialized, and the second tier, they're like double specialized. So you could put the bonuses on each one of them, so the DM and you would know exactly what was going on. And that'll show up in the combat. Whenever you roll the dice, you can see what they're for. Abilities are what come with generally races, classes, backgrounds, that sort of thing. And abilities are things that are typically, it's a description of something and then they attach something to it. So in this case, he's got infravision effect tied to it. So that whenever this race is applied to the character, they get infravision 60 feet, and this effect right here manages that. So you can see how he's got this giant circle around him. Well, I just unselected him. So I need to stop doing that. Giant circle around him. That's where he can see. So you can do multiple things, and again, I'm not going to go into that too detailed, just kind of give you an overview of what they are. And then we have skills. I'm looking for something simple. This is how you roll it. You would just click it, and I'm going to edit it before you roll it so you can look at it. This is what EOTB has set up for hear a noise. And you can read the description, see all the target values that he's looking at. By default, it's 10. So what we're going to do now is we're going to roll it. And he didn't make it. He rolled an 83 and he needs to roll a 10. So that's typically how skills work. You can have different variants, like this one is an open door, and he's got set up to do an open door check. He made that, and if you edit it, you can see it's got some fancy formulas in it to reference strength values on this character. This stuff right here. He's referencing this stuff so that he can determine whether they actually open the door or not. So that's the way that works. And again, I'm not going to go deep into the formulas there. That's for another day. The details tab covers class specific things and effects that are on the character, your race and backgrounds if you have them. And then it lists out what your combats are currently at. Experience earned. This guy has none earned yet. You can see down here there's 2 casting types. There's arcane and divine. Divine is cleric, arcane is wizards, that sort of thing. This level here is the level that they are effectively for an arcane caster. This is for things like, say, a paladin. Their divine level is not the same as their character level, so this is here so that this can be like 3 whenever he's, what is it, 9, somewhere around there he starts getting them. So it would be, this value would be his cleric level, and then these are the spell slots that you would get per level. There is a 0 level slot that is not used, but it's, I haven't tested it in any elaborate detail, but you should be able to put something there if you wanted to. I don't know that anything would be useful there, but you can do it. Let's see. I think I left that there just on the off chance that somebody wanted to use some kind of cantrip that wasn't first level. So, and then lastly, we have the description tab. Set whatever you want. This is just purely referential. You click that to edit. You type in here. Then click this to save it, and it's done. Some things you may want to set is his alignment, what size he is. He could be a small character. This guy's a dwarf, so we'll say he's small. You can see he's a class is fighter. His race is dwarf. This is ostrich. They don't have backgrounds like what I would consider background, other than I think some secondary skills, I think is what they called it in 1E. So ostrich probably does the same thing. And you could do those. I don't think EOTB has any of those because I don't think ostrich has any of those. So that's kind of a rundown of the character sheet, what each tab has. One of the other things that you'll want to know is, say you want to make a strength check. And this is kind of something that TUI, I think they all do it. So all these little text highlights, when you get red over them, that means it's a clickable thing. So in this case, if we want to make a dexterity check, we would click that. Add any modifiers where you want us in the roll and click apply. And he made it by 1. Let's see if we can do a charisma. And he made that by 3. And then if he needs to make a save versus spell, and he made a save versus spell. You can also see there's modifiers here, not on these, but on this one, and that's because he's a dwarf. And if you look, if you mouse over it, you can see it's D20 plus dwarf save bonuses. So if we actually went and looked at that, let's see where he has dwarf save bonuses. That right there, that effect. Yeah, you can see all these effects basically boil down to giving him +5 because of his high con to poisons and spells and rod staff 1. So that makes sure that he gets all those appropriate modifiers. If his con wasn't 19, it would obviously be less, but it's 5. Again, I'm not going to go over the effects for that. That's too specific for this. So we're going to close up the windows. We're going to make a dude, which I've already made the character. I just created an actor, made it, and stuck a token on it. I just wanted to have the token already there so we could start. And we have no ability scores. You roll these ability scores however you want. That is totally up to your group. I'm just going to set some because, yeah, I don't want to sit here and do things. So we've set some ability scores. Generally what you would do is this is the way I do my players, is I would put their token on the map and then have them, we would start walking through what they needed to do. And the reason I do this is, and this is more of a DM side issue, I need to be able to select the token to be able to put things on him, and I'm going to be putting things on him while we're sitting here talking. A player can open up the item browser and do it directly without selecting the token, but as a DM you can put items on anything, so you need to be able to select it. So for now, that's the way it works. So I want the token on the map. So the other thing we want to do now is become familiar with the item browser. If you go to the item tab, click item browser, it'll pop up this long list of things after it's loaded some data. And I'm going to kind of make this a little smaller so it doesn't take up so much. And what we want is, we want to start with the OSRIC items PC. This is from the module OSRIC compendium right here. It's from this. Only got 2 modules loaded. I got dice on ice, so we have some dice thrown across the screen. And then the content within the OSRIC compendium. Those are the only 2 things I have. So when that is loaded, it allows you to see them in the item browser. So right now it's set to item. I'm going to change it to race. And I like elves, and Neebs is always an elf. So I'm going to select Neebs so that whenever I click on this, it'll put that thing in him as a race. So I'm going to open this up so you can see what happens. So whenever I click this little hand item, that's taking the item. Now, a player can do this too. If they can see these, they can take it, but it will also show up in the chat. So if they're doing things they shouldn't, you should see that. There's also another option to buy an item. Obviously, you don't buy a race, but like you could buy an axe or spells or whatever. And the price that's set on that, whenever they click the buy item, it will subtract from their funds and give it to them. So we just took the race. It's going to add some things to it, and it's asking right now to add brawl to proficiency brawl, and that is because this race adds proficiencies and attacks. So what I can show you is if you go in here and you see brawls here, and then the brawl that it's talking about is an attack. And so what it's trying to do is make it a little easier for you to apply stuff. So if the name matches a proficiency, some part of the proficiency is going to say, hey, you want to put this in there automatically? And we're going to say, yeah, because we want the brawl to be, we want to be proficient with brawl. And then it's doing the same thing with grapple and overbear. And then it tells you that it just added these 3 weapons and these 3 proficiencies. So we've got all those, and now it's adding a whole bunch of skills and abilities and attached things to those, which include the vision that we talked about earlier. It sets his movement and some other things. So we'll close this up. You can go through and look at all these. I'm not going to do that today, but you can see all the cool things that the elf got. And the next thing we want to do is add a class. So I'm going to add magic user because I like playing Foundry magic users. I'm also going to add cleric, not a fighter. And the reason I'm doing this is so you can see the perspective of the divine caster and the magic user, because their spell availability is a little different between the 2. So when you first add these, it doesn't add a level. They're just, the class is added to your character sheet. That's it. To actually add a level, this plus and minus is how you would add them. So we'll go ahead and add 1 level of magic user. It added a spell items, right? And then we're going to add a level of cleric, and it added turn undead. So you'll notice he got 1 hit point and 2 hit points, and that's pretty terrible. Typically, I give my players max hit points first level. So if the DM wants to do that, what he can do is come in here, and on the class that he just leveled up, you can edit it, and you can see the hit points he got for that level. So if there's if he had 3 levels, so let me add a couple of levels to magic user so you can see it, what it looks like. You can see now he has 1, 2, 3. And got 2, 3, and 4 hit points. So what I want to do is I want to give him 4 hit points for first level. And I'm going to remove those 2 levels that I added extra just to get rid of them. And we're back to 1. And I am going to make sure that is 4. And then we'll go to cleric and we'll set this to 8 because that's what they get for first level. So he has 4 and 8. So what do you think his hit point's going to be? Yep. That's what they are. It's divided by 2 and added together. And then his con would affect it if he had any, but he doesn't. So we've added the 2 classes. You can see his current hit points. Actually, did I say 8? 6. Sorry. I'm sorry. All right. So 8 hit points. There's also this minimum hit points. And unless your DM has enabled the go below 0 hit points optional rule, this won't matter. But in some cases, earlier versions of the game may have this set to 0. If you want to use the go to -10 hit points, you can set that to -10, and then also set it in the campaign settings to enable it. This THAC0 value is not used in variant 1 or OSRIC, which is the standard variant. It's here just because the other, variant 2 uses it. This is his base AC, not his AC with armor and all that. This is what the character. So like if you let orcs be a character, and they have a base AC that's not 10, you can set that. Same thing with this. You don't mess with base hit points unless for whatever reason they get bonus base hit points. Maybe there's some legendary effect that you want to give them, that you want it to be permanent, and you don't want to actually make an effect like up here. This would, you could just set that to 5, and he would always have 5 more hit points than he would normally. So, as far as experience, we'll go through that once we've killed something. Down here, you can look at the proficiencies. This character has 2 weapon proficiencies, and 0 non-weapons, since this is not 2nd edition. I think 1st edition, first edition started doing non-weapon proficiencies with the Unearthed Arcana and the OA book, but in this case, he doesn't have any set in OSRIC. The non-weapon proficiency penalty is -3, so if he uses a weapon that he's not proficient with, it's automatically going to apply that modifier. And he has 2 weapon proficiencies. Neither one of them are used, and we'll work on that in a little bit. Let's see. And he is a level 1 Arcane caster and a level 1 Divine caster. He has 1 first spell of each. So we've got all that set. So let's go to gear, and we're going to do armor. So as I understand it, OSRIC is pretty close to 1st edition. So multi-class guys can wear armor. So we're going to give him chainmail. And we're going to give him a small shield. Oops, not buying a shield. Small shield. Next thing I want to do is I want to give him a weapon. He probably doesn't name his like that. Let's just look for long. There it is. Right there. We'll give him a long sword. So you notice it's prompting me. It's like, hey, you want to stick this proficiency with longbow? No, we don't. Because it has long in the name. And now it's going to say, hey, are you sure you don't want to put this in long sword? Because it matches that. We'll say, oh, yeah, we want to put that proficiency with the elf because it is a longbow or a longsword. Next, we'll do longbow, which this one should also prompt us for bow, and we're going to say, yep. So now if we go to combat, you can see that the weapons that we just added both have this green check. That means that you are proficient with that weapon. So I want to do one other weapon that we are not proficient with. Actually, technically, they're not proficient because he doesn't have a standard proficiency. The proficiencies I added were just the default bonuses that elves get with those. So technically that is not proficient, but it's going to show up as proficient because it has one applied to it. So you'll need to be aware of that. In this case, this would be what it would normally show up as. It's not proficient. And we don't have, let's see, we'll go to deep proficiency. You see, we don't have a dagger proficiency here. We can click here and add one and associate it, or from the combat section, if you click this, it'll say, you want to create a proficiency for this? And we'll say, yep. And you can see it automatically applies it to that weapon. And then now it's green. And we go look in proficiencies, and there's dagger right there. So normally what you would also have covering that longsword issue that I talked about. And then we would apply it to longsword like that. That's the way you would normally do it for people that aren't elves. So just to be aware of that, it will consider any bonus proficiencies as proficient, so it wouldn't apply a non-proficiency penalty to it. Okay, so we've got that. This dagger has no ammo, so we'll edit this and see why. And it's because, oh, we don't have an ammo set here. So what we're going to do is we're going to browse to the dagger, do that, and it now has 1 ammo. Still not proficient because I guess Ostrich doesn't consider a ranged dagger. It's the same as melee dagger proficiency. If it does, then you would just click that. Or actually what you should do is go over here and then edit the dagger melee. Change it to just dagger. And then I'll also add dagger. I think that'll do it. Yeah, I got it. And the reason you want to do that is because this cost value will calculate if you do it all this properly, it'll the calculations on however many weapon proficiencies you have used right here. This is how many weapon proficiencies I have used as 2. And so if you do that, it calculates it properly. If you add an extra one, even when it's the same, it's going to get messy. If you do something like this, you want to give it a cost of 0 because this doesn't cost them anything. This is given to them. So if you have a background that gives a proficiency, you'll want to set that value to 0. All right. So we've got weapons. We've got daggers. We've got armor. You can see in the combat tab his AC is now 1 because he has a -3. If you mouse over, you can see all the different versions of his armor class, where they come from. So if he's attacked from the rear, his AC is 5 because he gets no shield, no dex. If he's shieldless, his AC is 2 instead of 1, and so on. All right. So next thing we want to do is look for containers so I can show you how to put things in things. And we're going to pick up a backpack. And then let's move it down here. And then next, let's do, I'm going to go to all. And then I'm going to look for some standard things like flint and steel. I want water skins. Yeah, we'll get some water skins. We'll do 2. We want to get some rations. There we go. We'll get 3 of those. And you'll notice that the organization, the lines on here is a little wonky, and that's because I'm doing all. If I went to, I think under items is probably where that is. Yeah, it does it correctly. So I need to see if I can figure out a way to fix that. All right. There's a whole list of other things that if you want to add them. One other thing we can look at is currency. We can add some gold. Now he has a gold coin. There is 1 gold in it. So I want to actually give him, we'll say his starting gold was 100 gold. Now he has 100 gold. And what we can do now is go back to items. Let's see if we got some gloves. We can buy a pair of gloves. We're going to buy 1. And you can see down here where it says bought 1 pair of gloves, spent 3 gold. Those are some expensive gloves. So now he has a pair of gloves. So next thing we want to do is we want to kind of store some of this stuff a little better. So if you grab a hold of that and drag it and drop it on top of the backpack, you can see now it's got a little collapsed arrow. If If you left click on the backpack, it opens it up and you can see what's in. So now I'm going to put the gloves in here because I don't need them all the time. We've got the rations in there. We'll put our gold in our backpack too. And the water skins. Something else, if you ever need to, if you want to give some of your gold away, you can right click on it and it'll give you a pop-up that says split currency. I'm going to say how much, and I'm going to put in, I'm going to say I want to give this, split it to 5. So now I have a stack of 5 gold. So if I want to give that to somebody, I would initiate a trade, and I'm not going to go into initiating trades other than down here on the bottom left, there's a request trade. It'll pop up with a window, and you can initiate a trade, and you can select the things that you want to trade with the player or an NPC. You would select a requested trade with the GM, and then the GM would select whichever NPC he wants to trade with, and then they can shuffle things back and forth. You can barter that away. I typically only do that in a rare situation. Most of the time I'll let my players buy stuff straight from the item browser. In the future there may be a more automated way to do specific vendors. Right now that's how you would do it. You would put the items on the actor and then they would trade between the two of them. But that's a little further than I wanted to go. Something else. Let's see. So this looks like it's something that it does have something in it. And the reason he's done this is so that he can have ranged and melee weapons within the same item. So if you look here, you can see it's got a melee dagger item within it. It's just kind of a ghost weapon. It's not actually there. Well, I mean, it is, but it's mostly so that when you go to the combat section here, you can click on this and it initiates it the way he wants to. You don't necessarily have to do that, but you know, it works very well with this system. Let's see. So I think that covers gear. Down there on the bottom, you can see the max encumbrance is 185, and current total is 80. These calculations are totally based on the system. I couldn't tell you offhand what any of them are. I did the math and I worked with the OTB, and so all these values are calculated based on what the books and references, so that they're all compatible with whatever variant you set to. It'll use that. So I think that covers all of that. So what we want to do now is, this is going to be the DM side. I just hit escape, close all the windows. From the DM side, I'm going to clear chat so we can get clear chat. The next thing we want to do is get these guys in a party. Gorg is already made. He's already in the party. If you go to the party tab, you can see, yep, he's already there. You can see he's a fighter level 1. His AC is hit points. And we want Neebs in there too, so we'll click the add party member. You'll have a drop down here, and right now the only one that's not in there is him, so I'm going to add him. Now you have Neebs in there. And one of the reasons that the DM wants to do this is if the players are not in here in the party tracker, time will not tick for them. So you need to do that. And NPCs, time does not pass for NPCs unless they are in a combat tracker. Right now we're not in combat. If I advance time, say I change time by an hour here, the only people that would advance by an hour would be these guys. So the reason it does that is because you'll have on adventures, you'll have monsters on the map. They may have effects on them that have a duration. You don't want those durations ticking until they're in combat 90% of the time. If you want to do it outside of that, you'll have to come up with a different way. So in this case, that's the way it works. So right now, these guys are not in combat, but we'll say that Gorg goes to there. He sees the orcs, and we're going to put everybody in combat. So I do a lasso, I select all, I right click on one of them, and oh, I think I may have already had a combat going. So yeah, let me end combat so I'm clear, and this will do it from the start. So now there's no combat. I'm going to select all these guys, right click. Oops, I double right clicked. Right click, and now you can see everybody's in there. And something I like to do is right click on the tab, the combat encounters in on the right, and it'll pop it out. I prefer to have that popped out, and then go to the chat tab so I can see all the combat there. So once I've got everybody in it, I can click begin, and it will roll some dice. So you'll see 2 dice rolled. That's for the 2 orcs. You'll notice that Gorg and Neebs didn't get rolled. That's because they're players. They need to roll on their own. I don't think Ostrich, I haven't played Ostrich or 1E for a long time. I've been playing 2E forever, so I'm not terribly familiar with how the initiative, I don't think they use weapon-based initiative, unless it's segmented and how that goes. But so for this, I'm not going to cover that. The players will also see these dice up here right now. You see them both because I am the DM. What they would normally do is they reach up here, they click it. You could say charge. He's going to charge. That's what he wants to do. I'll click apply. That's what Gorg's going to do. Neebs is going to shoot his bow. If there's modifiers, I don't think one he has modifiers for this simple sort of combat. So now they've all rolled, and you can see that Orc 20 is the first guy. So we'll click that, select it, and you'll notice when I click that guy, there's this combat HUD that pops up. This lists all the things that this little guy here can do. If you look on the character sheet, let me pull it up. It looks a lot like the PC. It's a little different. You've got like a standard sort of NPC breakout of the standard stuff. You'll have attributes. In most cases, you don't set these unless they're special. But here's the saves for that guy. Their combat tab looks a lot like the actors, the PCs. Looks the same. He's got a lot of things on these orcs that comes with Ostrich, and I'll show you how to grab those later. He's got all the gear on them as well. These are all the proficiencies. Their details tab. And then their description. It's got some handy dandy things that you can use here. Not going to cover it. But so that's what this is. This is the combat HUD. Players can see their own. The DM can see them all. And as you go through combat, when I switch to the next actor, it'll go to Gorg. This one will go away, and I'll get one for Gorg. So this guy is going to move to here. And the way I'm doing these waypoints is I'm holding the control button down while I'm moving and then left clicking where I want him to go. And then when I get done, I hit the space bar and he moves. And then to target, I mouse over the guy and press T and it selects him. You can see the little flashy little blue things. And then I'm going to use the battle axe on him. Not going to do any modifiers and just roll. And he has got a -1 to hit that guy because Gorg is wearing chainmail and the orc is using an axe. So it uses weapon versus armor. So if you mouse over there, you can see that WVSA. That means weapon versus armor modifier. And I'm not going to go into great detail on where and how to configure that. But right now, just know that if you have armor on the guys and they're using the right type of weapons, it'll apply these modifiers. So he missed. So it's end of his turn. We'll move to Gorg. Gorg is just going to attack the guy in front of him. I'm going to move this over here. So you'll notice that it appeared on the left side where it originally was, and I'd moved it. So it doesn't save the location of where you put this until you close it. It's kind of counterintuitive. I'm trying to figure out a better way to do it. But right now, if you close that and then reopen it, and to reopen it, I'm just selecting that token. If you already have it selected and you close it and you don't unselect, you clicking him is not going to do anything but bring up the character sheet. So you have to click off of him and select him and it'll bring it back up. So you'll note now it'll stay here. I'm not really happy the way the select thing works. Having to unselect to select it, but it's a hook that is in Foundry that I use. If I can figure out a better way to do that, I will. That's the way it works right now. But anyway, so it brings up this. You can adjust the size of the HUD as well. We didn't cover that. We can slide it over, make it a little narrow, change the size of it. I like that. But now we are going to use the battle axe as well. Back at him. Oh, he missed too. He missed. He did get a +2 from his strength. He gets a bonus to hit this guy, and it's because he's an orc, and we can go look at that. Let's see, what was it called? It says dwarf attack bonuses. So we'll look for dwarf attack bonuses right there. We can edit that. Go look at the effect, and you can see all these cool effects. They're pretty complicated, just some of this, and I'm not going to cover that tonight, but you can see basically anything that's a goblin or an orc, he gets a +1 to attack, and a hobgoblin. Actually, he could migrate all these into one effect. You can separate these by comma, so it could be goblin, comma, orc, comma, hobgoblin, and it would do the same thing. So he missed as well. We'll go to our next guy. Orc number 3 is going to come around his buddy, move to here, and then target Gorig. He also is going to use his battle axe. And he's going to miss. Move to Neebs. Neebs was going to shoot his bow. So Neebs is going to shoot this guy right here. Where's our... Oh, we never gave Neebs a bow. Oh, we did. We didn't give him arrows. So I'm going to do that in the middle of combat, which we generally don't do. Let's go to gear so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to open up the item browser again. We're going to set this to weapon. Go to arrow. And we're going to add some. So you can see it just added the 20 arrows. Now when I use this bow, you can see it's gray, and that's because it doesn't have any ammo configured. And it's gonna pretend like it's gonna let me shoot. But it's gonna say, hey, you don't have any ammo set for this. Set something. And of course it defaulted to arrow because it's alphabetically that. But what it's gonna do is it's gonna list anything that's considered a weapon. So there's a lot of things in here that aren't correct. So, and the reason being is some weapons like daggers can use daggers. Some things can use, like if you're using battle axe, hand axes, it would. So I can't. It's not an easy way to limit it. So just know that you need to be aware you're setting it to what you actually want it to. So there it goes. So it missed, but we'll notice that I bought 20 of those arrows. How many do we have left? We have 19, so it used 1. And we will shoot again for our second shot. You notice the arrow count went down 1. And this time he hit. Got a green. You can look at all those modifiers. He got dex modifiers. He's got elf longbow. He's got weapon versus armor versus guy. He's got a lot of modifiers to that. So now we're going to do damage. And so we've got this guy targeted. We go over here to the chat card in chat. Click it. And we can select the damage style, which can be damage multipliers or multiple dice, maximum, half, that sort of thing. And we're going to click damage. Woo! He took 6 damage and he killed him outright. Nice job, Neebs. So something else that we didn't cover, and we will do that now. And we should have done it before combat, but we didn't. So you'll notice that in the arcane slot and the divine slot, we have 2 empty slots. It says 1 arcane slot available. We don't have any spells available. What's up with that? Well, it's because he never got any spells. So if we go to the item browser, go to spell, first level spells, I'm going to set the type to arcane, the search filter. And so I'm going to give him a charm person. You can see these popping up in his thing. And we got to give him sleep because, oh my goodness, got to have sleep. And then we got to have read magic and detect magic. So you'll notice that all these say not learned. That's because he hasn't learned them. Arcane spells need to be learned. So normally what you would do is you would either make them roll their intelligence, which you can see chance to learn for him is 65%. I'm not rolling it because it doesn't matter for this particular case, but I'm going to select it. And if we go back to gear, you'll note it's not there anymore. We'll do this one so you can see it. The learn part goes away. You do this just so you can kind of keep track of what's learned, what's not. The spells that aren't learned will show up in the combat tab. They'll just show up under not learned, but in this case we've learned them all. I want to go to gear one more time and do item browser one more time and go to container and look for, I'm hoping he has a spell book. I'm going to give him a spell book because I like to have my stuff organized. So spell book is a container, just like a backpack, and we want to stick all of our spells in there. So we're going to drag and drop them all there. Did I get everything? Oh, read magic. So you can do all that, and then you can throw them inside the backpack too. Close it up so it's all nice and pretty. But if you want to see them, you can do that. So now that we've got spells in here, we can do that. And you can now see he has a spell. Something that I want to show you is how a non-learned spell shows. Let's do missile. So now he's got a non-learned spell in his spell book. We go to combat tab. We don't have an extra slot. We don't have another slot, so we'll have to clear this spot out. And to do that, you'll need to erase it. And what that does, it just removes it from memory. It doesn't delete the spell, just removes it. So now when you look, you can see down here he's got not learned, he's got learned. That way if they have stuff in there, you can see it. If you, for whatever reason, you're going to let him memorize it, he can. Just, it lists it. In this case, I'm going to do it because I want to show how to use Magic Missile. The other thing I want to cover is how divine spells work. They're different. In divine spells, they get access to all the spells in their, Variant 2, 2nd edition, it's restricted to schools or spheres. I can't remember the difference. I think it's spheres. But since this is Arctic, I don't think it does that. So he has a list of all the spells that are in the game right now, all the ones that are in the compendiums or in the world that are divine spells that are that spell level. So in this case, he has, access to those. And I gave him Cure Light Wounds. So now that he has that, we're going to go to our next round. NPCs rolled. Players are going to roll. I'm not going to go in here and set these specific, but just know that my guy back here is going to cast Magic Missile, so you can see what that spells look like. Orc number 3 is dead, but he went first, so we'll skip him. We'll go to Neebs. Neebs is going to target this guy. And he is going to cast Magic Missile. You can see it up here. We click that button. And since he's got this broken out to where you can have up to 10 missiles. But the thing you need to remember is to have a spell slot used, you need to cast it. So we will cast this spell. It'll generally pop up some helpful information if it requires some, and he's got it listed here. In this case, I know he only gets 1 missile, so I'm just going to click damage from 1 missile. Oh, 2 damage. He only did 2. How disappointing. And Gorg is going to swing with his axe. Oh, and he hit 2. And he's probably going to kill this guy with 1 hit, unless he rolls bad. No, he did not. He killed him dead. All right, so one of the things I want to show that a DM may need to say, oh, Gorg there was something wrong. Gorg was actually not doing that, or he had the wrong guy targeted. If you look in the combat chat, there's a little undo button right below that. So if for whatever reason the DM needs to say, oh, no, you can't do that, you can click that and it'll remove what his damage just did. If they applied an effect, it'll undo it. Now, if you did a mass fireball, you're going to have to undo that for all of them. The only thing it can't undo is absorbs, like protection from lightning and fire. At higher cleric levels, put absorbs on a character. And if they take damage and that absorb bubble, that bubble takes damage, it can't undo that. Same thing with mirror images and stone skin usage and that sort of thing. Those things, it'll just be used in, oh well, All right, so we're going to go to orc number 20. And this guy is going to attack. And he missed. So I'm going to roll again. And I want to show you guys a little trick. If you hold control down while clicking with a weapon, it's going to automatically just roll and bypass the situational pop-up. So for NPCs, generally, whenever I'm running a game, they don't have a modifier. Unless they do, I don't need to sit there and go through this pop-up here. I can just control left click and it'll go really quickly, much faster. So I'm going to keep rolling. And we'll just pretend that hit. Because I want to do some damage to Gorg. And actually I had myself targeted as well. But now I have Gorg targeted. I'm going to do damage to Gorg. Okay. So next round, Neebs is going to heal. He's going to cast Cure Light Wounds. And we'll also pretend that Neebs is not moving, because I don't think he can move and cast spells, but we just want to show how to use the spell. Let's see, where is Cure? Right there. Click it. And we're going to remember, you got to cast the spell first to use the slot. You notice whenever I cast it, it kind of grays it out. And then he's going to click the heal button and roll 1d8. And he got 5 health back. So again, if you look down here, you can see I can undo that heal as well. All right, so I think that covers most of what I wanted to cover as far as character creation. Kind of a simple combat. I don't see any questions in chat from YouTube Live. Let me check my notes real quick. Let's see if I wanted to do anything else specifically. See, we added spells. Okay. So I think next time I do this, I will cover making an NPC, giving them a bunch of actions, showing the weapons, how to kind of make an action, how to make a spell, and that sort of thing. But I think that this is probably enough. And I might go through and put in a timeline to make this a little easier for people to go through. But I think that'll cover it for today. And thank you very much.